Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. A North Carolina school board has decreed that teachers could get fired if they promote critical race theory in the classroom. A peer-reviewed study in the European Journal of Immunology states that a majority of people who had COVID-19 have antibodies to the virus for as long as 13 months. And is this also true with the Delta variant? Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is expecting as many as 400,000 illegal immigrants to cross the border in October. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. A county in North Carolina is instituting a policy that could see teachers or staff fired if they push that the founding fathers were not heroes, if they undermine the Constitution, or if they promote that racism is endemic in America. The Johnston County Board of Commissioners said it will withhold $7.9 million until the policy is accepted by the school board. The News and Observer reported North Carolina schools have denied teaching critical race theory. Instead, they've said they're promoting equity and inclusion practices designed to help educate an increasingly diverse student enrollment. Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson released a report in August, including complaints from parents across the state accusing teachers of trying to indoctrinate their students. The revised Code of Ethics policy proposed by the Johnston County Board of Commissioners states in part, no students or staff members shall be subjected to the notion that racism is a permanent component of American life. All people deserve full credit and recognition for their struggles and accomplishments throughout the United States history. The United States foundational documents shall not be undermined. No employee of Johnston County School will make an attempt to discredit the efforts made by all people using foundational documents for reform. Critical race theory wasn't specifically mentioned in the changes. The new policy did target key ideas that align with the ideology, including claims that racism is so deeply embedded in the nation's psyche that the racist views are considered normal throughout society. The idea that American society is inherently racist has been promoted by proponents of CRT, notably Nicole Hannah-Jones, the leading author of the New York Times 1619 Project, and Ibram Kendi, a professor at Boston University who wrote the book How to Be an Anti-Racist. Johnston County School District has over 37,000 students. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is expecting up to 400,000 illegal migrants to cross the border in October, and he's hoping his officials are ready. Mayorkas and others at the DHS are worried about a spike in illegal migrants crossing the border if a court-ordered repeal of the Title 42 expulsion policy takes effect today. The Title 42 is a Trump-era CDC authorization. Border Patrol officers could immediately turn asylum seekers away during the pandemic, regardless of their status. The Biden administration has rolled back the policy somewhat to allow exceptions for unaccompanied minors and some families with young children. Mayorkas said during a September 21st appearance on MSNBC, it is currently our government's intention to continue to exercise our Title 42 authority in light of the public health imperative as determined by the Center of Disease Control. But immigrant advocacy groups and some of Biden's fellow Democrats are outraged at the White House's continued enforcement and defense of the order. On September 16th, U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan ruled the Biden administration does not have the power to block asylum seekers at the U.S.-Mexico border using the restriction. DHS officials are concerned that migrants will misunderstand the change in policy as a message that the border is open regardless of the legal process. The Biden administration has appealed the ruling and may appeal to the Supreme Court if the Title 42 is lifted by the lower court. Meanwhile, a new caravan of more than 15,000 migrants led by smugglers is in Mexico and headed for the U.S. border, according to a letter sent to President Biden from Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and Marsha Blackburn. The GOP lawmakers said, "We call on you to immediately send a clear and concise signal to the massive caravan en route that they must turn around. Smuggling and trafficking should not be tolerated by the United States." They said Biden's continued capitulation constitutes an unconscionable threat to our national security. On October 2nd, just hours after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi canceled a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package that the Senate had approved more than a month ago, frustration over clashes between Democrats began to set in. Everybody's frustrated, Biden told reporters outside the White House before departing for Wilmington, Delaware for the weekend. Pelosi and Biden are trying to hammer out an agreement with the Congressional Progressive Caucus, a 96-member strong group that's holding firm that it will tank the infrastructure bill if moderates don't first help pass a budget package that comes in at $3.5 trillion. Moderates, including 2 key senators, are upset that the bill have been tied together, and many have so far refused to commit to supporting the budget bill. Republicans are divided on infrastructure legislation. 19 GOP senators helped Democrats pass it in August, and some Republicans have signaled they'll vote for it. But without the progressives, the bill won't pass. And Republicans unanimously oppose the budget bill. Democrats plan to use a process called reconciliation to ram it through with 0 GOP votes, but that requires support from Senators Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, support that's currently not there. Democrats hold only 8 more seats than Republicans in the House and have no votes to spare in the 50-50 Senate, where Vice President Kamala Harris can break ties in her role as president of the body. Democratic leaders have been trying and failing to align enough members on reconciliation, attempting to use the infrastructure package as leverage. Fractures have become more apparent in the party. New Jersey Representative Josh Gottheimer wrote a lengthy statement on October 1st, hitting Pelosi for her second delay on the infrastructure vote. She had promised to bring it before the House before September 27th. Pelosi allies circulated posts on social media responding to the statement, including one that noted the progressive bloc is much larger than Gottheimer's bipartisan problem solvers caucus. Sinema released a rare public statement on October 2nd, expressing disappointment in the continued delay. She helped craft the bipartisan agreement, and her desire to see the House approve it has driven good faith negotiations on the reconciliation package, even as she and Manchin have balked at the mammoth price tag. Good faith negotiations, however, require trust. Over the course of this year, Democratic leaders have made conflicting promises that could not at all be kept, and have at times pretended that differences of opinion within our party did not exist, even when those disagreements were repeatedly made clear, directly and publicly, she wrote. Canceling the infrastructure vote further erodes that trust. About an hour earlier, Pelosi penned a separate note sent to Democrat colleagues in the House, setting a new deadline for the vote. She said they must pass the infrastructure bill before October 31st, that she didn't allow a vote on the infrastructure bill because it would have failed, and we will and must pass both bills soon. Biden was speaking on Capitol Hill, where he traveled to apply pressure in person on lawmakers who want to pass the infrastructure bill and tackle the budget package separately. That aligns him with the progressive bloc and Pelosi and her allies, who tried downplaying the disagreements within the caucus. And coming up, a Marine critical of the Afghanistan withdrawal is in the brig awaiting his fate, and a new study says natural immunity can last up to 13 months. But before we continue, I want to take a quick second to ask all my friends watching and my live chat family to please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But most importantly, share this video. I'm depending on you, my friends, and the power of word of mouth to spread the truth. Now, today, I get to toast Dave. Dave sent me an excellent photo of himself with his mug that matters, but if you look closely, he's sitting beside a sweet 1957 Chevy Bel Air, which he did tell me was for sale. So, with that being said, let's grab our mugs and allow me to say thank you, Dave. Your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller is the U.S. Marine officer jailed for criticizing senior military officials over the U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan. On the same day that 13 U.S. service members and more than 100 Afghans were killed in an August attack outside of Afghanistan's Kabul International Airport, Scheller released a video criticizing senior military leadership's handling of the U.S. withdrawal. He released another video on September 16th holding General Kenneth Frank McKenzie, commander of Central Command, responsible for the obvious mistakes made. As a result of his comments, Scheller was sent to the brig on September 27th, which sparked outrage from some lawmakers and the public. In a September 29th letter to Marine Corps General David Berger and General David Bly, 35 members of Congress called for Scheller's release. During a September 29th hearing on the Afghanistan withdrawal, the same hearing at which McKenzie provided false information about the August 29th drone attack that killed Afghan citizens, Representative Matt Gaetz lamented the fact that senior military officials are still in positions of power while Scheller sits in the brig. When people in the military like Lieutenant Colonel Scheller stand up and demand accountability, when they say you all screwed up, when they point out General Milley's statement that Afghanistan's not going to be defeated by the Taliban, well, he ends up in the brig and you all end up in front of us, Gaetz said. But no one has resigned, and they have by and large painted the evacuation effort as a success, pointing to the over 120,000 people, primarily Afghan nationals, that the United States evacuated. Scheller's parents said to NTD TV that the U.S. Marines who called for accountability after the messy U.S. withdrawal are risking a lot for fellow Americans.
I go on Stuart's donor page every hour. Their words of encouragement for Lieutenant Scheller and for Mom and Dad are what are keeping us going.
He is an American war hero. He has fought for his men and women that follow him. He's fought on the battlefield for them. I believe he has risked his life for his fellow service people and Americans. He is now risking his livelihood for them. He saw a misjustice happening at the top, and he felt that they should be held accountable for it. Scheller's mother said on NTD's The Nation Speaks. Scheller's mother also acknowledged that Stuart knew he had gone against a direct order, that there would be consequences. But he didn't hurt anyone or commit a violent crime. He spoke out disregarding a direct order, and there should be some kind of punishment. More than $2.2 million was raised for Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller defense after more than 29,000 donors contributed. Scheller is awaiting a hearing over the videos in which he called for accountability from top leaders in the military and the Department of Defense. Marine Corps Training and Education Command spokesman Captain Sam Stevenson told Task and Purpose the time, date, and location of the proceedings have not been determined. Lieutenant Colonel Scheller will be afforded all due process. The immune system of a majority of people who were infected with the virus will continue to carry antibodies against the virus for 13 months, according to a peer-reviewed study accepted by the European Journal of Immunology on September 24th. Scientists at the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare studied the antibodies present in 1,292 subjects 8 months after they were infected. They found that 96% of the subjects still carried neutralizing antibodies and 66% still carried a type of antibody called nuclear protein IgG. The scientists then investigated antibody levels 1 year after infection by randomly selecting 367 subjects from the original group who hadn't yet been vaccinated. 89% of the subjects still carried neutralizing antibodies and 36% still carried IgG. Antibody levels were higher in subjects who had experienced severe symptoms of COVID-19. Compared to those who had mild disease, these subjects had 2 to 7 times as many antibodies for at least 13 months after infection. Studies of the individuals who had recovered from the infection are crucial in determining for how long antibodies persist after infection and whether these antibodies protect against reinfection, the scientists wrote. Despite lasting protection against the original strain of the virus, the study found that the neutralization efficiency against the alpha, beta, and delta variants waned in varying degrees over time. The reduction was considered for the beta variant and was only slightly reduced against the alpha variant. For the delta variant, which is the dominant strain in the United States, the study found that 80% of the subjects still had immune protection 12 months after their infection. A study published in Nature Medicine in May found that the levels of neutralizing antibodies in a person are highly predictive of immune protection against infection and severe disease caused by the virus commonly known as the novel coronavirus. Prior studies have shown that antibodies persist 6 to 12 months after infection. Despite the robust and lasting protection after an infection, the Biden administration's virus vaccine mandates offer no exemptions based on acquired immunity. U.S. universities did not offer exemptions to students who had acquired immunity. Recent mandates imposed at the state and federal levels have likewise ignored acquired immunity. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in our eye-opening Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Now don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.